So a lot of people who are going to watch this video are going to disagree with me. So people say, I'm making my film for 700,000, but I'm also going to get a tax credit. And the state says to you, okay, if you film your movie here, we're going to give you 20% on your expenditures, and you're spending all 700,000 there. So you're going to get $140,000 in a tax credit. So a lot of filmmakers say, well, if I'm getting $140,000 from the state, that's part of my financing package. I don't need to raise 700 anymore. So what I suggest is, instead of doing that, take the entire money from the investors, but say to your investors, I need $700,000. And they're going to say, but I thought you're getting a tax credit of 140. You say, I am, but I'm getting it a year after we finish the film. So it's like 2 years out, because I need your money now to make the film. It's going to take a year, plus another year by the time we get the tax credit. So that's 2 years. So consider their tax credit as revenue, kind of like distribution revenue, and not part of your financing plan. Okay, welcome back, everybody. This is We're Making a Movie, next episode. So in the last episode, we talked about budgeting and how to determine how much you need to make your movie. So this episode, we're going to pick up from that. And now that you know how much you need, we're going to talk about where you're going to get the money. And I know in the last episode, we kind of spoke a little bit about tax credits or financial incentives. So obviously that's one of the funding sources for independent films, in addition to other sources. So today we're going to talk about basically financing your movie. All right, so I'll start off and then we can go into details. So look, every filmmaker struggles with where they're going to get their money from. I mean, it's making a movie, I've always said, is difficult. But, finding the financing to make the movie is super, super difficult. And then after you've made your movie, distributing it. So I've always said those are the bookend stuff, here's finance, here's distribution, here's production. I always say that, right? So financing is tricky because, making a movie is a very high risk investment. And so, finding money to do that is often challenging. So for most indie films, and say the film at this level, which is say $700,000, we're not talking like, these are not studio films. They're not financed by public companies, big streaming platforms or big studios. They're generally financed by private investors. All right. These are people so you're going to go to what we call high net worth individuals, people who have money, who you, the filmmaker, hopefully have access to. So we'll talk a little bit about how do you network with high net worth individuals. But most of the money for your film is going to come from people who have a lot of money, who are willing to share some of it with you because they believe in you and they trust you and they want to support you in making a movie. That's where the bulk of the money is going to come from. So let's say with $700,000, I'm going to say that usually about 70 to 80% of that is going to come from private investors, aka high net worth individuals. In most scenarios, the filmmaker themselves needs to put a little bit of money into the skin in the game, we call it, a little bit of money. And the amount of money that you should put in yourself is also what you can afford without jeopardizing the rest of your life. So you don't want to mortgage your house and do everything that is going to potentially ruin your life if it doesn't happen, because chances are it's not going to happen. You're not going to necessarily get a return. But you need to demonstrate, when you go to ask high net worth individuals to support you for their money, there's a couple of compelling things that they're going to want to hear. And one of them is that you, the filmmaker, are also taking some financial risk. And the reason they wanted you to do that is because they want you, that's what we call the pay attention factor. They want to know that if they lose their money, you're also going to lose a little bit of your money, and it's going to hurt a little bit. So what's that level of hurt? The level of hurt is basically what you can afford without destroying your life. So for instance, if say a high net worth individual is worth $100 million, right? They can easily part with $500,000 and it's not going to change anything in their life. They're not going to even notice it. Their lifestyle is going to stay the same. You know, I mean, they donate that kind of money all the time. That's what people with that kind of money do. So it's not going to be a big deal for them. But let's say you're a filmmaker and you're only worth $100,000. That's your net worth, right? So they don't expect you to put up, say, $50,000, half of your net worth. They might expect you to put up maybe $5,000, because in your life as a filmmaker, $5,000 could change your life. Like, I mean, it matters. It could be the difference between, say, a holiday for you or your family, you know, maybe a down payment on a car or something. So $5,000 in the grand scheme of things to them is nothing. It's a rounding error to them. It's nothing. But to you, who's only worth 100,000, it's a lot of money. So it's all relative to how the proportion of how much it matters in the overall grand scheme of how much you have. That is skin in the game. So if you're
Quick
saying
question,
to,
Jeff.
yeah,
When the filmmaker is putting skin in the game, let's say that they put $50,000 in, and that's like comfortable for them. Are they getting paid? Like, so let's say they're directing or producing their own project. Are they paying themselves for the project, or are they, as they're working, are they just working for free, basically,
okay,
and putting?
great question. So that is what there's a difference between what we call cash equity or cash investment and sweat equity or sweat investment. So there's two ways to contribute your, you know, your value. One of the ways is actually write a check. It's actual cash. So what I was talking about, that $5,000, that's cash. All right. The other way is to contribute your time and your skills, which is not you're not writing a check, but you're putting in, 2,000, 3,000 hours of your time, and your time's worth a lot of money. So that's actually a bigger investment than your cash investment. So the investors, the high net worth individuals, they're going to want both. They're going to want sweat equity and cash. So the cash doesn't have to be as big as the sweat, obviously, because most filmmakers can't afford to write a check, but they will put in their time and effort. They'll put in couple of thousand hours, or maybe 2 to 3 thousand hours into their projects because they have to. So that's a value. Now, the question is what you value your time at. So let's just say you're going to put 2,000 hours into making your film. And let's say, just to keep the math simple, you value your time at $100 an hour. So that time that you're putting in it is $200,000 worth of value. 200 $100 an hour times 2,000 hours, 200,000, right? So you could say to an investor, look, I'm investing $205,000. I'm investing $5,000 in cash and $200,000 in labor, my time, because that's what it's worth. And if they agree your time is worth that, then that's your true investment. And so they'll look at that as value, right? Now, will you get paid back for that? I'm going to explain how the paybacks work. The answer is yes. Hopefully you will get paid back for the time that you invested and the money you invested. But we have to talk about how the payback works relative to how your investors are going to get paid back. And that's what we call the deal, like the actual setup, the financial deal that you're offering to your investors. Because at that point, you're one of the investors. So you're aligned with them. Your interests are aligned. All right. But let me paint the whole picture and then we can go back and ask that. But it's a very important concept to understand that. So let's say you need 700,000. So you're going to go to investors and you're going to say to them, um, you're going to ask them for the whole 700. You need $700,000. All right. Let's make it easy. You're going to put in 10,000 yourself. So you need them of cash. And you need $700,000 worth of cash, even though you're built into that budget. Let's say your time, you're going to produce, direct, edit, and everything like that. And you're doing these 2,000 hours at $100. So you're built into that. So your $200,000 goes to you of that 700,000, the total budget. That's what you're asking me, right? It's already built in. So if you say to them, I need $700,000 in cash, and you show them the budget and they see that you're going to pay yourself $200,000, they might say, we're not sure we're comfortable with that. All right. How about the deal might be we'll give you $500,000 and you invest the other $200,000 in your of time, and you'll take, an equity position and we'll take an equity position because we don't want to pay you the cash to make your movie. So again, that all depends on the relationship you have with them and the deal you're offering. So you can try to get the full $700,000 and show them upfront that you're going to take 200 in fees. And if they're okay with it, then that's fine because you deserve to get paid because you're putting the time and effort in. But if they don't want you to get paid upfront because they want you to, again, pay attention and have a lot of risk so that you're doing, that's one of the reasons why they're trusting you, because they know that you're super attached financially. So if you don't pay attention getting their money back, you're going to lose a lot of your time and effort. That might speak to the deal. All right. So generally speaking, they're probably not going to give you the 200 up front. They're going to say you work for the 200, but when the money comes in, you'll get your 200 because you earned it. So we'll talk about how that happens afterwards in a second. All right.
Would they get their 200 before the investors get their 200, or?
Yeah. So you're asking all the right questions. So that depends on what deal you offer to the investors and what they're willing to take. So why don't we just let me just finish with this overall scenario, and then we'll play a little bit of a mock negotiation. All right. So so people say, oh, I'm making my film for 700,000, but I'm also going to get a tax credit, let's say of 20%. All right. And to make the numbers easy, let's just call it 20% on the $700,000. All right. So you're going to go out there and you're going to film in a state that offers tax credits, which we'll talk about in more detail later on in this episode or in the next episode. And the state says to you, okay, if you film your movie here, we're going to give you 20% on your expenditures, and you're spending all 700,000 there. So you're going to get $140,000 in a tax credit. So a lot of filmmakers say, well, so if I'm getting $140,000 from the state, then that's part of my financing package. I don't need to raise 700 anymore. I need to raise 560. Okay, because then I'm going to add another 140 from the state. And so that in could, is sort of true, but it doesn't work out for what we call cash flow, because the state, although they're going to give you $140,000, they're not going to give it to you until after your movie's finished, and probably 6 to 12 months after your movie's finished, because you need to spend the money and do these what we call qualified expenditures, and then they rebate it back to you or give you the tax credit after the fact. So that's not going to help you because you need the money to make the movie. So what a lot of filmmakers do is they say, I'm getting $140,000 tax credit, and the tax credit is very secure because it's coming from, the state of, let's say, New Mexico or something like that. So what I can do is I can go to a bank and I can finance that tax credit. I can say to a bank, in 6 months or 12 months, I'm going to get another 140,000 from the state because here's what I'm doing. I'm spending this much money, blah, blah, blah. All right. And the bank will say, I want to borrow that money from you because I need it to pay my cast and crew and make the movie, and then I'll pay it back to you afterwards. So a lot of people do that. A lot of filmmakers will finance a tax credit and then they'll loan money against it. I personally think that's not a great strategy for low budget indie film. And that is because the cost of borrowing is super high. What they don't understand that for $140,000 tax credit, they're going to have probably $20,000 to $25,000 in banking fees, like just setup fees to set up the loan, with the legal fees and all the administrative fees and everything. There's a cost to set up a loan, especially this kind of loan. Plus, they're going to pay interest for, say, a year or two of, say, 7 or 8%, depending on what the interest rate is at the time. Let's say 10%, just to make the numbers even. So $14,000 in interest for the year, and assuming they get their tax credit within a year of borrowing the money, and say another $20,000 in banking and setup fees and all this kind of stuff. So that's $34,000 on a $140,000 tax credit. So all of a sudden, you're not getting the $140,000. You're going to get $106,000, and 34,000 is going to go to fees and interest and costs. And I could be low. It could be even more than that. It could be 40. So you have to factor that all in of what your net tax credit's going to be. So what I suggest is, instead of doing that, take the entire money from the investors, even though you could be giving what we call equity. So, and I'll talk about the different deals in a second, but say to your investors, I need $700,000. And they're going to say, but I thought you're getting a tax credit of 140. You say, I am, but I'm getting it in a year after we finish the film. So it's like 2 years out, because I need your money now to make the film. It's going to take a year plus another year by the time we get the tax credit. So that's 2 years. So I'm going to count that as what we're going to consider that revenue. So the first money that's probably going to come in on when the film is finished is going to be tax credit money of $140,000. And we're going to use that to help you recoup your investment that you made with us. So that's how I classify it, as revenue. And I think it's better to do that. It's cheaper. It's better for your financial, scenario and the deal. And so that's what I suggest to indie filmmakers, to consider their tax credit as revenue, kind of like distribution revenue, and not part of your financing plan. So a lot of people who are going to watch this video are going to disagree with me. And that's probably because they haven't done financing before and understand just how extensive it is to set up banking and find a loan and do all this stuff for what's going to amount to a very small tax credit. Now, if you're talking about a $5 to $10 million tax credit from a major film, then I get it, because the banking fee is still, $30,000 to $50,000 to set it up. Relative to the $5 million loan, it's not a big deal. But a $30,000 fee relative to a $140,000 loan is a big deal as a percentage of the overall. Okay, so now let's say, so Sally, do you want to be the filmmaker or the investor? Which role do you want to play? Let's play a little, have some fun here.
I can be the filmmaker.
Okay, I'm the investor. Pitch me. You want money. You have a $700,000 film. Pitch me. So this is how this goes. Okay. Instead of me explaining it all, let's just have some fun and you do it. And then I'm going to critique it as we go. But I'm going to ask you tough questions as an investor. So go ahead. Don't, tell me you made a nice film. Okay. I spend one sentence on the film and then tell me what you want.
So I am making a 90-minute medical drama about the spine industry. It's going to be $700,000. I am going to put in $20,000 because that's all that I can afford to put in, relative to what I can afford right now. I'm looking to raise the other $680,000 through private investing, and I wanted to know if you'd be interested in investing. I am doing, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're called options, where I'm having different people put in like $50,000 to $100,000.
Oh, now you're going to get complicated, aren't you?
Yeah.
You sure you want to go down this road? Because I'm going to eat you alive if you go down this road. So why don't you just stop at that and
Okay,
say,
I'll stop
would you
there.
just stop there? All right.
Mhm.
Okay. Your film sounds great. I mean, you didn't tell me much about it. All right. Tell me about you. How do I know that you can make a good film? Are you an experienced filmmaker?
I This is going to be my first film that I'm going to be making on my own. I'm going to be producing this film, so I will be, taking care of your money, managing the money, making sure it's all going to the right places. But I do have experience working with a lot of other filmmakers, and I think that this project is very marketable and it has a good chance to sell. Um, so higher chances of us recouping our money. We will be filming in a tax credit friendly
Whoa,
state.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's not go there yet. Okay.
Okay, okay.
How can I trust you that you're going to do two things? One is that you know how to make a good film because it's your first film, and you're asking me for a lot of money, and like, you haven't made a film before. So how can I trust you that you're actually going to make a good film? No, that's number one. And when you make this good film, how can I trust you that you're actually going to be able to sell the film because you haven't had any experience with that? Like, I like you, you're nice, you're sweet, you have good intentions, but you don't have any experience. Like, why would a guy like me trust somebody like you, even though I know your intentions are good? Tell me that.
Um, because just because this is my first film, I'm gonna be making sure that the money is gonna be spent on surrounding myself with other people who have a lot more experience in those, either
Oh,
creating good
okay.
films or distributing films.
Oh, so you're gonna put a team together of experienced filmmakers who won't make the rookie errors that you're gonna make because they've already learned the hard way not to make errors. So
Yes.
you're gonna surround yourself with people who are have a little bit more experience.
Yeah.
And then
I
what
will.
about on the selling side? Same thing. You're gonna surround yourself with people who know what they're doing selling wise.
Yeah, I will be connecting myself with other people who have distributed their own films, either self distribution or work with distributors.
Okay.
Just get
So
that
so
understood.
even though I can't necessarily trust you, not because you're not nice and honest, but it's because you don't have enough experience. I can trust these other people because they do have experience.
Hmm.
Okay, so you'll tell me who those people are. You'll pitch me on that team, and assuming they have experience, that's what we call credibility. So you're credible because you're going to surround yourself with other people who are more experienced with you or credible that I can, because they already have a proven track record. So I can trust them to deliver what they say they're going to do more than I can trust you. And again, not because you're not nice and sweet, it's because you haven't done it before. Okay, so that's good. So we're going to check that credibility box off now because you're going to have a good team, credible team. Okay. So you're making a movie for 700,000, right?
Yes.
How are you going to sell this movie? Just curious. I'm assuming you're going to make a good movie now because you're working with credible people. Tell me about the sales side. How are you going to sell it?
I will be putting it onto TVOD and AVOD platforms. I will be working with either a distributor or an aggregator to get it onto those platforms, and then I'm going to be executing a marketing strategy or marketing plan to get viewership onto those platforms.
Okay, so I don't have enough time right now because I'm a busy guy, but normally you would tell me about your marketing plan, who you're going to connect it with, your audience a little bit, just so I get an understanding that you actually know what you're doing. Okay,
Mhm.
that sounds great. How much revenue are you going to generate when you do this?
Um, After doing my revenue forecast, I think that we're going to reach around 2
Just
million.
2 million.
2
Okay,
million.
good. 2 million. Okay. Um, if you're going to use a distributor, are they going to take like a distribution fee like most distributors?
Yeah, they'll be taking a 20 to 30% fee.
Call it 25%. Okay, so
Exactly.
they're going to take of the 2 million, they're going to take 500,000. Okay, so you're going to be left with 1.5 million. And that's going to include, say, the marketing and distribution and everything. Okay, so we're going to have 1.5 million left over, and the investment is a total of 700,000 in cash. So
Hmm.
am I correct in saying there's going to be an $800,000 profit?
Yes.
Can you tell me how long that is going to take? Like from the time I send you the money, and let's say it's all in one tranche, okay? We don't do it in multiple tranches, which is what we normally do. But let's say I send you one check. From the time I give you the money, when will we generate that profit, and when will I get whatever? We haven't talked about what my share of the profit is yet, but when will I get whatever I'm going to get back? How long does it take?
I would say 5 to 7 years.
5 to how many years?
5 to 7 years.
So let's call it 6.
6.
Okay. That's a long time. Like, why does it take so long?
It's just a long process because we want to make sure we do the film right. So just the script writing, pre-production, production process, and editing takes about a year.
Okay.
And then after that, we have to put together our trailers, our posters, our marketing materials, create those, and then we have to shop our film around after it's made to see if we want to work with the distributor or not. And if we decide not to, then start the self-distribution route. And then it takes a bit of time to, we don't just get the $800,000 all in a month span. It comes in over time.
Well, it's not the 800, it's the 1.5 million.
For
That's
the
what,
1.5 million, yeah.
yeah. Okay. But is that all at one time? Like somebody writes you a check for 1.5 million and we're out, or does it happen over a certain number of years?
Happens over a certain number of years.
Okay. So, okay. So we'll get into that a little bit more because I want to understand that a bit more. What's the deal? What are you offering me? If I give you 700,000, what are you offering me? Do I get to own the whole film? Do I get like, when do I get my money? How much of the profit do I get? Tell me what the deal is.
Um, if you give me $700,000, the deal is that you will be in first position to get your money back. Um, I mean, quick question. If you're the only person who's investing in the film, is there even a first position if are you just the only position? Like
No,
you're the only,
you have 20,000 in it,
or
remember?
have 20,000. Okay.
Yeah. So you're a $20,000 investor. I'm a $680,000 investor.
Mhm.
Okay, so what does that mean, first position?
That any profits that we make after we recoup our money will go to you.
When you say when we recoup our money, so I'm not worried about the profits right now. I'm worried about recouping. So
Hmm.
when we recoup, so it's $700,000 is what we're going to spend. When the first $700,000 comes in revenue, where does that go?
That'll go directly to you, the
Well,
invest.
wouldn't 20 go to you and 680 go to me?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So
the deal I'm offering you is you get your money before I get my 20,000.
so if only 680,000 comes in, I get it first, and then if another 20 comes in after, then you get that second.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say 680 comes in, I get my money, another 20 comes in, you get your money. Now, after that, for the rest of the money that comes in, say that the other 800,000 that you're forecasting, that's would make 1.5 million, right? How much of that 800,000 do I get, and how much do you get?
We will do it as a 60-40 split.
Who gets the 60?
You get the 60 and I'll get the 40.
So after I'm fully recouped, for every dollar that comes in a profit, I get 60% of it and you get 40%.
Correct.
Okay, now sounds nice, except that I took way more financial risk than you did. I mean, I put up 680 of 700,000. That's like 95% of the investment. So why am I only getting 60% when I put up 95%?
Because I, the filmmaker, put in more money relative to my net worth.
I know, but you also got paid. Like you put in $200,000 worth of labor, and our $700,000 paid you. So you, even though you worked hard, you got paid. So you're doing fine by this, because you're earning a fee to make a movie and have a good time. And I'm taking all the financial risk. So why am I
Mhm.
only getting 60%? I want 90%,
I'm willing to negotiate 80%
80.
relative to you contributing 80, or yeah, 80%.
I'll tell you what, give me 90% until I double my money, until I make back 1.4 million. So, or 680 times two. And then thereafter, I'll take 50%.
Okay, that sounds fair.
Okay. All right. So let's just stop, go out of character for a second. So,
Mhm.
this negotiation that we're having right now is a negotiation. All right. That's what you're willing to get. There's no rules here. There's no, it's a discussion and a negotiation. What you're willing to offer, what somebody else is willing to accept. All right. You could go 20%. If they're willing to accept it, then you're a good negotiator. You could go, 100%. It depends on what somebody, that's the discussion. Okay. So there's no hard, fast rules there. I mean, sometimes it's very often 50% after everybody recoups, and I'm recouping in first position, remember. So if there's only 680, you never see your 20, and I get out and I'm clean. And then maybe we go 50-50 after that. But 60-40 was a good starting point. I like that. You were willing to go up to 80. I pushed you to 90, I so it's just a negotiation. And I was just messing with you. Right? Okay, so let's go back into character. Okay. So let me just reiterate. So I'm going to get the first 180,000, 680,000 from first revenue. So I'll recoup first. You recoup second, you're 20. Then thereafter, I'm going to get 80% of the revenue up until I double my money, and then 50% after that. That's the deal. Okay, fine. So what happens if the movie doesn't make any money. Is this investment? Am I an owner of the company? Like, is this what we call an equity investment? Or am I lending you the money, which is what we call debt? So I can give you $680,000 either as a loan that you're going to repay back in first position and potentially with some interest, or I can do it as equity where I invest and I get a pretty sizable share of the company. So I own more of the film than you do. What kind of investment are you offering me?
I am offering you an equity investment.
Okay, so for my 680,000, how much are you, so let's say you have a company 123 Film Production, right? LLC. How much of that company are you going to let me own?
Would I have to give you more than 50%? Or is it like purely negotiation?
That's a negotiation also.
Okay. Um, I'm willing to give you 35% of the company.
Okay, but the problem is if the company doesn't make any money, then I would like, and the whole thing goes down the toilet. I would like to own the film because I would like to at least have an asset that I could sell to try to get my money back. So
Mhm.
I want 51% of the company because I want to be able to take the film and own it if the whole thing goes down the toilet.
I think that me and my team are confident in what we do, and I think that we would be, since we're filmmakers, we would know how to market and sell the film. So I don't think you have anything to worry about. If it tanks, then it tanks. I don't think it's going to go much further than the effort that we put in.
Okay, thanks a lot. Nice try. I'm going to go invest in real estate where it's safer and I don't have to take as much risk. So go find another investor. Or do you want to talk 51%?
Um, I'll have to get back to you on that. I can do 45,
No,
45%.
no, 51 because I have to control it in order to take over the asset. Otherwise, I'm in a you could do 49. But if I don't have 51, I can't control it. I need to control it so I can own the asset in case I have to liquidate the company and try to get some of the money back. And the only value in the company is going to be the film or whatever state it's at. So that's why I have to. Okay, how about this? I'm going to suggest something to you. How about I just loan you the money? All right, I'll give you a loan in as opposed to equity in the company, and you pay me back in first position from first revenue as you talked about. And if you don't pay me back, all right, at least say 75% of my loan within the first 5 years, then I have the option to take over control of the movie. And then you transfer the ownership of the movie to me if you don't pay me back 75% of my money.
So with the transfership, would that be me giving you the 51% or
No,
100%?
no, I don't own anything. You own the company 100%. It's
Hmm.
your company. You own it. The company owns the movie. You own it all. But you're going to sign what we call a promissory note to me. All right. And you're going to say, I owe you $680,000. And if I don't pay you back in 5 years, then I'm going to give you ownership of the movie instead of paying you back.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. But in addition to that, and I want 80% of the profits as in lieu of interest, because normally I would charge you interest on my loan, but I'm willing to forego the interest because I'd rather take a profit share. It's not an equity ownership, it's just a profit share in profits. So I'll take 80% of the profits up to another $680,000, and thereafter I'll take 50% of the profits. But if after 5 years you don't pay me back my 680, I'm taking the film over. Okay. So we'll go to character. So that's the deal terms. See, it's a negotiation. How much you're willing to give, what percentage, is it a loan, is it an equity, is it an is are you only giving away part of the company or are you just borrowing the money? So these are all negotiations. And that's what a deal looks like. What we just did, there's obviously more smaller details and some legal items and stuff like that, but the core of the deal is what we just talked about. So let's say I agree to it. All right. I say, here's my 680. It's a loan, it's a promissory note, 5 years, the interest, everything we talked about. We do the deal. So I send you $680,000 a check. I wire you the money. You put in $20,000. So now in your bank account, in the LLC or the company that you formed to create the film, you have $700,000. Now you go and you make that film. You start spending that money. All right. And hopefully make a good film. And now we talk about making the film. So that's where you get your money from. All right. Now, some people say, "Oh, I'm not going to get it from high net worth individuals. I don't know anybody. I'm going to go crowdfund." And I say, you could crowdfund for maybe 50,000, but you're not going to get $700,000 in a crowdfunding campaign unless you're really, really good and really, really lucky. Maybe you get a grant. Maybe you get other things. But I'm telling you from my experience, most of that money's coming from private individuals.
Thanks for watching this episode of We're Making a Movie. Make sure to subscribe to stay tuned for our next episode.